Florentino Perez and Daniel Levy once played a game that looked more like high finance than sport, and at its centre was Luka Modrić, a player whose quiet genius on the ball would eventually help shape an era. Back in 2012, Modric's name was the prize that sent two of the game's most relentless executives into a prolonged war of will. Tottenham's midfield metronome had impressed across the Premier League, and Real Madrid wanted him badly, but Tottenham's chairman Daniel Levy had reasons to hold firm: valuations, leverage, and the belief that patience paid. The transfer did not unfold on the pitch. It was fought in conference rooms through agents, fines, and public statements. Offers were made and rebuffed. Part exchange proposals were floated and dismissed. At one point, Modrić even stayed away from a pre-season tour in protest, a human flashpoint in the middle of corporate strategy. That mix of ego, economics and principle turned a routine transfer window into a saga that would test the limits of what clubs could demand and what players could endure. Real Madrid's president, Florentino Perez, is no stranger to high-stakes negotiations, and his persistence matched Levy's obstinance. Weeks of back and forth ended only when a deal acceptable to both sides was struck, but the scars of the battle remained, not only in the press headlines, but in the way clubs approached valuation and leverage thereafter. The immediate result of that fight was obvious. Modrić left Tottenham and arrived at the Bernabeu, where his vision and craft would become central to Madrid's success for more than a decade. But the larger consequence was subtler. The transfer became a case study in the modern game's power dynamics, showing how a single chairman could slow or accelerate the fate of a player, and how patience could be both weapon and weakness. Forward to today, and that chapter gains a new epilogue as Tottenham moves into unfamiliar leadership terrain. After nearly 25 years in charge, a tenure that reshaped Spurs economically and architecturally, but often left fans frustrated with a perceived unwillingness to invest the same way on the pitch, Daniel Levy has stepped down from his role as executive chairman. A seismic shift for a club that has long been defined by his strategic fingerprints. The change in the boardroom, with a new non-executive chair stepping in, signals something more than just a personnel shift. It signals a club willing to rethink how deals are done, how football priorities mix with long-term financial strategy, and how the relationship between owners, board, and supporters is managed. For supporters who remember the Modrić months, the news reads like a full-circle moment. The leader who once fought the biggest clubs tooth and nail over marquee players is now leaving as Tottenham seeks a fresh sporting direction. Yet history doesn't sit still. The lessons from that 2012 tug-of-war remain useful to understand why certain moves succeed, why others fail, and how personalities at the top can change the course of careers. For Madrid, Modric's arrival justified the patience. For Spurs, the moment was a reminder that being rigid brings both rewards and risks. In the wider football world, the Saga shaped bargaining playbooks. Clubs learned to value control and timing. Players and agents sharpened their strategies. Presidents and owners discovered that public opinion matters as much as balance sheets. As the dust settles on Levy's era, the questions that linger are clear. Will Tottenham embrace a new, more aggressive sporting model, or will financial caution remain the club's North Star? Will future transfer standoffs be handled differently when fresh leadership is in place? And for Modrić and the generation he symbolised, the story endures as proof that the biggest matches aren't always played on grass. They are waged behind closed doors in negotiations that can change careers and rewrite the history of clubs. Tonight, when we look back at that near miss that nearly kept Modrić away from Madrid, we see more than a transfer. We see a pivot point in modern football where personalities, power, and patience collided, and where one man's insistence on a price nearly altered the shape of football history.